It is official. The first depth chart of the Pittsburgh Steelers 2025 season was revealed today, and there's not a lot of shockers on them. But I'm going to go through it telling you the starters and the backups for this upcoming season. So when I say initial, obviously this is preseason, so things are due to change when the final 53-man roster is actually set in place, but as of right now, because the Steelers roster sits at 90 players, the depth chart is even bigger. But this is a great way how to tell who's on the edge of the Steelers roster and who has a better chance of making it over others. But before I get more into it, however, and tell you the starters and the backups, make sure you subscribe to the channel and turn notifications for everything Pittsburgh Steelers news and updates. Also like this video. Now, let's get right into it. So, let's start off with the offensive side of the ball. And let's obviously start with the quarterback, because Aaron Rodgers is hands down the starter of this team. And his backup on the list is Mason Rudolph. Now, the third quarterback spot, we all know Will Howard would end up winning it, but for the initial depth chart, you would think it would be a battle between Skylar Thompson and Will Howard for who's named number third. But it's not, because Will Howard is the third quarterback listed on the depth chart, and Skylar Thompson is the fourth. Now, moving over to the running back position, and we all knew Jalen Warren will be named the starter, and he is on the initial depth chart. But the second running back spot is a little bit tricky, because it's not Caleb Johnson, it's actually listed as Kenneth Gainwell. And this makes sense based off him being a veteran in this league now, and him being the backup with the Eagles for many years. And the rookie Caleb Johnson is actually listed as the third, Trey Sermon the fourth, and Evan Hull and Lou Nichols as the fifth. So Caleb Johnson obviously has a chance to earn that second spot through the preseason, and I do believe that he'll see more reps than Kenneth Gainwell when the actual season unfolds and we look back at it. But for right now, it makes sense why he's listed the third on the initial depth chart. Now, moving over to the tight end position. This one's a little bit weird because Pat Freiermuth and Jonnu Smith are listed as the number one tight ends, meaning that those two are tied for who will see the field more and who the Steelers believe is the number one tight end, which is a little bit awkward because obviously Pat Freiermuth has been here for a while and Jonnu Smith was just traded here, but at the same time, Jonnu Smith is a Pro Bowler last season, so it makes sense. But those two are tied, and then Darnell Washington is still listed as a starter, but as the number two tight end. But the Pittsburgh Steelers plan to run multiple sets, that's why he's listed not as just a backup, but as a starter at the tight end position as well. So, moving over to the offensive line, and we're going to start off with left tackle, because Broderick Jones is the left tackle, Isaac Seumalo is the left guard, Zach Frazier is the center, Mason McCormick is the right guard, and Troy Fautanu is the right tackle. So everyone's in place how we expect it to be in terms of their natural position. And this should be a big year for them. Now the backups at the tackles position is Kelvin Anderson at left tackle, and then Steve Jones as the third. And then the backup to Isaac Seumalo is Spencer Anderson. The backup to Zach Frazier is Ryan McCollum. The backup to right guard Mason McCormick is Max Sharping and Nick Broker. And then Aiden Williams. And the backup to right tackle Troy Fautanu is Dylan Cook, Doug Nestor, and Gareth Ward. So the Pittsburgh Steelers, that is their offensive tackle, offensive line room. Now, moving back to the offensive skill position, fullback. Connor Hayward is listed as a starting fullback for the Pittsburgh Steelers, and DJ Jones is listed as his backup. Now, moving over to the wide receiver position. This one is not a surprise. DK Metcalf is listed as a starter. Kelvin Austin III is also listed as a starter. And then the backups to those two is a little bit surprising because Robert Woods is listed as a top backup, so is Scotty Miller. And then the third string wide receivers is Roman Wilson and Ben Skornick, which is a little bit surprising because I would think that Scotty Miller wouldn't be high as a top backup based off how he ended his season last year with the Steelers being cut. But Roman Wilson, he's the third string. Ben Skornick is also the third string. Roc Taylor, fourth string. Brandon Johnson, fourth string. And the fifth string is Keyshawn Williams. Max Hurleman actually listed as a wide receiver, not as a running back. and Lance McCutcheon, also listed as the 5th string. So that's a little bit surprising, and hopefully Roman Wilson is able to see a play increase this season, and he earns the 2nd string kind of wide receiver position and be that 3rd wide receiver on this team. Let's see what the season has unfolds for him, but as of right now in the initial depth chart, it's listed as this. Now, moving over to the defensive positions, I'm going to start off with defensive tackle, and that's obviously Cameron Hayward. The longtime veteran, he's still earning that spot. And he hands down is the captain of this team probably once again this year, and let's see if his play increases like it kind of did last year. Now, his backup is Isaiah Loudermilk and Ezi Otamiao and Brandon Fioco, who was just signed. Looking at the nose tackle position, Keanu Benton is the starter hands down as well, with Daniel Ikule as his backup, and Yaya Black as his 3rd string, and Dominic Davis, who was basically just signed and then waived and then signed again, as the 4th string nose tackle. At the defensive end position, we have rookie Derek Harmon being listed straight out as a starter. Usually, rookies, they have a hard time earning that 1st string starter position before they even play a preseason game, but the Steelers aren't messing around naming Derek Harmon as a starter right away. And that makes complete sense to me, but based off how the Steelers usually do business, it's a little bit surprising. But anyway, Logan Lee is his backup. Kyler Baugh is the 3rd string, who was also just recently signed. Now, looking at the left outside linebacker position, obviously that left edge, TJ Watt hands down has that, and the 2nd string is Jack Sawyer and DeMarvin Leal listed as his backups, with Julius Walsholf as the 3rd. Now, this is a little bit surprising because Jack Sawyer is a rookie. DeMarvin Leal is not a rookie, so you would think maybe DeMarvin Leal will be listed as the backup, Jack Sawyer as the 3rd string, but no, they put tied for the backup with those two. And it's also a little bit surprising because DeMarvin Leal is actually listed as an edge here, but in previous years in their depth chart, he was also always listed as a defensive line position as a backup. So now he's officially made that switch to the edge rusher position that we've all been talking about for many years now. He was a 3rd round pick, so hopefully he's able to get together and he's able to earn a spot on this team because time's running out for him for what he could do with the Steelers roster. Now, moving over to the right outside linebacker position, the right edge, Alex Highsmith is the starter, Nick Herbig is the backup, Iku Leota is the 3rd string. And once again, this makes complete sense, basically what it was last year. Now, moving over to the inside linebacker position, the left spot, Patrick Queen the starter, Malik Harrison is the backup, and Devin Harper is the 3rd string. At right inside linebacker, we have Peyton Wilson, Cole Holcomb, Mark Robinson, and Carson Bruner. And this makes complete sense as well. And Peyton Wilson is actually listed as starter here, not Cole Holcomb. Cole Holcomb's coming back from injury, but with those reps, it basically goes off what we've seen to end last season. Now, obviously, Peyton Wilson is taking over for Elan Roberts, who was a starter last year as well, so the rookie is now named the starter in his 2nd year. Now, moving over to the cornerback positions, at left cornerback, we have Darius Slay, Corey Trice Jr., Karen McCutcheon, and Daryl Porter. And looking at the right cornerback position, we have Joey Porter Jr., the starter, Braden Nichols, the backup, James Pierre, the 3rd string, Kyler McMichael as the 4th. And at the nickel cornerback spot, we have Jalen Ramsey as the starter, Beanie Bishop Jr. as the backup, Dante Kent, the rookie, as the 3rd string, and Deshaun Jameson as the 4th. Now, this is where it gets interesting. The very free safety position is obviously Juan Thornhill, but the depth here takes a hit because Miles Killebrew is now the immediate backup and not the 3rd string as he was in previous years, and Quindell Johnson is now the 3rd string. And at strong safety, Deshaun Elliott, who had a great year coming over in free agency last offseason for the Steelers, is the starter once again at strong safety. Chuck Clark is his backup, and Sebastian Castro is the 3rd string. So that does it for the defense for the Pittsburgh Steelers. The highest paid defense in the NFL, that's it right there. Hopefully they have a great year. Now, moving over to special teams, and we're going to start off with the kicker. Obviously, Chris Boswell is the starter, and Ben Sauls is his backup, probably the practice squad guy, but Chris Boswell is the main guy on special teams just in general when you look at special teams. The punter, first stringers are Carlos Waitman and Cameron Johnson tied as the starter, meaning those two will battle it out during camp, battle it out during preseason to see who earns the starting position. Obviously, Cameron Johnson was named the starter last season. He got injured, and Carlos Waitman had to take over and is really solid for this team. But Cameron Johnson is obviously making more money, so we're going to have to wait and see who is named the starter. I believe it'll probably end up being Cameron Johnson, but Carlos Waitman is a really good option. Now, looking at the holder is Carlos Waitman and Cameron Johnson tied as well, based off their battle. Long snapper is Christian Kuntz, and Tucker Addington is his backup. Looking at kick returner, Kenneth Gainwell comes over and is immediately named the kick returner for the Pittsburgh Steelers, which is a little bit interesting. And also Jalen Warren, who is the starting running back, is also the backup. So your top two running backs are your kickoff returners. And looking at punt returner, we maybe thought that someone else would take that role from Kelvin Austin with his increased role at wide receiver, but no, he's the starter at punt returner for the Pittsburgh Steelers once again this season, with Scotty Miller named as his backup. So that does it. That is the Pittsburgh Steelers' first initial depth chart of this 2025 season, preseason. Things are due to change. The depth chart will get smaller before the season begins because it's going to cut down from 90 players to 53. But as of right now, that's who the Steelers view as the top guys on this team, the starters, people who secure their position, but then also players who are on the edge of the roster. So that does it for the initial depth chart and my thoughts on it. But let me know your thoughts down in the comments below. Out of these guys who are on the edge, who do you want to see make this roster? And what are some shocks to you in terms of who is listed where on the depth chart in terms of first, second, third stringers? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. My biggest surprise is the wide receiver position. Just who is named as the backups to Kelvin Austin and DK Metcalf. Also, make sure you subscribe to this channel and turn notifications for everything Pittsburgh Steelers news, updates, highlights, analysis reports, everything surrounding this team I've covered this offseason. Every new players on this channel, go ahead and check it out. And I'll continue making videos covering this team throughout the entire season as well. So stay tuned, like, comment, and subscribe, turn notifications for this channel. And until next time, until tomorrow, the next video, I'll see you guys all later. That's it for me. I'm out. Peace.